Good healthy food is critical for better health.
Hi, I'm Kathy with Level Up RN. In this video, I will be discussing nutritional guidance for cardiovascular disorders, including coronary artery disease, hypertension, a myocardial infarction, and heart failure. At the end of the video, I'm going to give you guys a quiz to test your understanding of some of the key points I'll be covering. So definitely stay tuned for that. And if you have our Level Up RN nutrition flashcards, go ahead and pull them out so you can follow along with me. First, let's talk about coronary artery disease, which causes impaired blood flow and oxygen delivery to the heart due to atherosclerosis, which is the buildup of plaque on the arterial walls. Individuals with coronary artery disease are advised to consume a heart-healthy diet and to implement heart-healthy lifestyle changes. I'll be going over this information at the end of the video because a heart-healthy diet and heart-healthy lifestyle changes are recommended for all of the cardiovascular disorders that I'll be covering in this video. Next, we have hypertension, which is high blood pressure. In addition to a heart-healthy diet and lifestyle, individuals with hypertension are advised to limit their sodium intake to less than 1,500 milligrams per day. This is because increased sodium intake causes water retention, and this increases the fluid volume in the body, which in turn raises the blood pressure. Now let's talk about a myocardial infarction, or MI, which is the sudden blockage of blood flow to the heart. After an MI, a patient will of course be encouraged to consume a heart-healthy diet and to implement heart-healthy lifestyle changes. They may also be encouraged to eat small, frequent meals as opposed to larger meals, which can increase myocardial oxygen demand. And then some nursing textbooks may also recommend that the patient decrease their caffeine intake in order to prevent myocardial stimulation. However, recent studies show no association between moderate coffee intake and cardiovascular events following an MI. The last cardiovascular disorder we're going to talk about is heart failure, which is the inability of the heart muscle to pump enough blood to meet the body's needs. If the patient has fluid retention related to their heart failure, then sodium and fluid intake will likely be restricted. Fluid intake is often restricted to less than 2 liters per day, and sodium intake is often restricted to under 2,000 milligrams per day. Now let's talk about the key characteristics of a heart-healthy diet. Two specific diet plans that are considered to be heart-healthy include the DASH diet and a Mediterranean diet, which are similar in many ways. Key components of a heart-healthy diet include fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and healthy proteins, such as fish, poultry, nuts, beans, and low-fat or fat-free dairy. In addition, a heart-healthy diet limits saturated fats, trans fats, sweets, and sugar-sweetened beverages. In terms of lifestyle changes that promote heart health, it's important to get regular physical exercise, maintain a healthy weight, limit alcohol intake, avoid nicotine and smoking, manage stress levels, and get enough good quality sleep. All right, it's quiz time, and I've got 3 questions for you. Question number 1. Individuals with hypertension are advised to limit their sodium intake to under blank milligrams per day. The answer is 1,500. Question number 2. The DASH diet and a Mediterranean diet are heart-healthy eating plans. True or false? The answer is true. Question number 3. What diet restrictions would you expect to be put in place for a patient with heart failure who is hospitalized due to fluid retention? The answer is their fluid intake will be restricted and their sodium intake will be restricted as well. All right, that's it for this video. I hope it was helpful. Thank you so much for watching and good luck with studying. After a patient has we invite you to subscribe to our channel and share a link with your classmates and friends in nursing school. And if you found value in this video, be sure to hit that like button and let us know what you found to be particularly helpful.
Why is too much salt bad for you? Eating too much salt can be bad for your blood pressure. Your kidneys help control your blood pressure by taking water out of your bloodstream. Salt contains sodium. Too much sodium in your blood pulls the water back in. More salt means more water in your blood vessels, and that means higher pressure. Over time, high blood pressure makes your blood vessels work harder. To cope, their walls thicken, reducing the space inside the blood vessels. Your blood pressure rises even more, and less blood may get to your organs. Blood carries oxygen and other nutrients around the body. Less blood to your heart can cause pain known as angina, or even a heart attack. Less blood to your brain can cause a stroke or a type of dementia. High blood pressure contributes to around half of heart attacks and strokes. Adults and children over 11 shouldn't eat more than 6 grams of salt a day. Six grams is a level teaspoonful. That's the same as 2.4 grams of sodium. Younger children should eat less. 3/4 of the salt we eat is hidden in ready-made food. They may not even taste salty, like bread and breakfast cereal. What can you do? Check food labels. Use the colour codes. Green equals low in salt. Choose brands with less salt. Some even have lower salt versions. Don't add salt when you're cooking. Add flavour with black pepper, herbs, spices, and lemon juice. Can you spot salty foods? bhf.org.uk/salty-surprises.
What does fat do to your body? You need to eat a small amount of fat as part of a balanced diet. It provides essential fatty acids and fat-soluble vitamins that keep your body working. But fat is high in calories. 1 gram of fat contains about double the calories found in 1 gram of carbohydrate or protein. This means eating too much fat can lead to weight gain. Being overweight or obese increases your risk of heart disease by up to 28%, even if you're otherwise healthy. The type of fat you eat matters too. The main types of fat in food are saturated and unsaturated. They have different structures, so behave differently in your body. Too much saturated fat is linked to increased levels of bad, non-HDL cholesterol in your bloodstream. Too much bad cholesterol can increase your risk of heart and circulatory disease. Fatty deposits can build up in your arteries, and over time this can lead to symptoms of angina or even a heart attack. All fats and oils contain saturated and unsaturated fats. We classify them based on what they have most of. Coconut oil, ghee, fatty meats and cheese contain mainly saturated fat. Vegetable oils, oily fish, avocados, nuts and seeds contain mainly unsaturated fat. Trans fat is another type of fat. It can raise our non-HDL cholesterol levels. Small amounts are found in meat and dairy, and trans fats were added to foods in the past. But now UK manufacturers have removed this type of fat from their products. Because of this, our intake of trans fats is now below the recommended maximum. Reference intakes, RIs, give you an idea of how much fat to eat. They are a maximum, not a target. The RI for fat is 70 grams per day. 1 tablespoon of oil or enough spread for 1 piece of bread are both around 10 grams. Of that 70 grams, less than 20 grams should be saturated fat. In the UK, most of us don't eat too much fat overall, but we do eat too much saturated fat. Swap saturated for unsaturated fat to help lower your cholesterol. Swap cheese for avocado. Swap fatty meat for oily fish. Swap chocolate for unsalted nuts. Compare food labels to make the healthiest choice. Use oil instead of butter, lard or ghee for cooking and measure it out. Every teaspoon of oil adds 25 calories. Choose leaner meat such as skinless turkey or chicken. Or have pulses, beans, eggs or fish instead. The BHF is funding more research into fat and how it affects your health. Find out more at bhf.org.uk/fatsresearch.
Cholesterol. It's essential to your well-being. But what do you really know about it? Let's start with the basics. What exactly is cholesterol? Well, it's a waxy, fat-like substance that's made in your liver and travels throughout your bloodstream. It's a key ingredient that your body needs to make new cells. But too much cholesterol can lead to serious problems, such as heart disease and stroke. Here's why. You see, there are actually 2 main types of cholesterol, LDL and HDL. LDL, or low-density lipoprotein, is sometimes called bad cholesterol because it can build up inside your arteries, which causes them to narrow, which can lead to heart disease or stroke. That's why you should try to keep your LDL low. Think of it this way, the L in LDL is for lower or lousy. On the other hand, HDL, or high-density lipoprotein, is the good kind of cholesterol. It carries LDL, the bad stuff, away from your arteries and back to your liver, where it's broken down and processed by your body. That's why you want your HDL to be higher. In this case, the H in HDL is for higher or healthy. There's actually a third component known as triglycerides, which plays a role in your cholesterol health. Triglycerides are the most common type of fat in your body, and their job is to store excess fat from your diet. Elevated triglycerides, along with low HDL and high LDL, can also increase your risk for cardiovascular disease, so it's important to keep your triglyceride levels low. For anyone who's had their cholesterol checked, it's only natural to focus on your cholesterol score or the actual numbers. But the numbers don't really tell the whole story about your health. That's why it's important to discuss all of your risk factors with your healthcare provider, including risk factors that you can change, like eating a healthy diet, getting plenty of physical activity, and quitting smoking. Controlling your cholesterol may be easier than you think, but it all starts with getting your cholesterol checked. It's a quick and easy test. So if you're due to have your levels checked, or if you never had them checked, make it a priority. Taking the next step in managing your health is as easy as CCC. Check, change, and control your cholesterol. Get started now by visiting heart.org/cholesterol. If you've been told that you have high cholesterol, you're not alone. It's something that affects millions of Americans. There are many different risk factors that contribute to high cholesterol. Some of them you can't control, and others you can control. The American Heart Association recommends that you start with these 4 key lifestyle changes. 1. Eat a heart-healthy diet. Simply put, trim the fat. One of the best ways to lower your cholesterol is to reduce saturated fats. Try to limit things like red meats, fried foods, and full-fat dairy products, and load up on things like fruits and vegetables, poultry and fish, and foods that are high in fiber. 2. Get moving. Physical activity is a great way to increase your HDL, the good stuff, which helps to decrease your LDL, the bad stuff. Whether you're walking your dog, riding your bike, or swimming, getting aerobic exercise on a regular basis is a great way to keep your cholesterol in check. 3. Lose weight. Being overweight or obese tends to raise your LDL and lower your HDL. Just by losing 10% of your body weight, you can dramatically reduce your risk for high cholesterol. 4. If you're a smoker, stop smoking. If you have high cholesterol and you smoke, you're at an even higher risk for heart disease than non-smokers. Kicking the habit will not only improve your cholesterol, but it will reduce your risk for many other dangerous diseases. Unfortunately, there are some people who can't control their cholesterol just by making healthy lifestyle changes. There are a variety of reasons why, and among them is something known as familial hypercholesterolemia, or FH. FH is a genetic, inherited disease that results in increased levels of LDL. That's why it's a good idea to know about your family's cholesterol history. There's great news for people who can't control their cholesterol through lifestyle changes alone. Cholesterol-lowering drugs have been proven to be safe and effective in controlling cholesterol. If you need cholesterol medication, your healthcare provider can design a treatment plan that's right for you. By taking control of your cholesterol, you'll improve your long-term cardiovascular well-being, which will help you live a longer, healthier life. Taking the next step in managing your health is as easy as CCC. Check, change, and control your cholesterol. Get started now by visiting heart.org/cholesterol.
Deep down in us, we find what makes us function, what makes us human. Our proteins. And now, we're seeing them like we've never seen them before. Every day, without pause, the heart pumps 7,500 liters of blood through our bodies. It's the engine of our blood circulatory system, and it makes sure our cells get the oxygen and nutrients they need. But the heart itself also needs oxygen, and when that supply is cut off, it can have devastating effects. Within the Human Protein Atlas project, all of the different proteins in the human body are being mapped out. And all this is available on the HPA Open Access website. Here, researchers can study the proteins that keep our hearts beating. And now, this is being taken even further with a new technique that allows researchers to explore our proteins in 3 dimensions.
The heart is an amazing muscle, and seeing it like this opens up a whole new world.
Images like these make it possible for Petter Olofsson to improve our understanding of what makes hearts tick.
The oxygenated blood from the body is transported through veins, and here it enters the right atrium and then continues into the right ventricle. When the right ventricle contracts, blood is pumped through the lungs, where oxygen and carbon dioxide are exchanged. The freshly oxygenated blood then enters the left atrium, continues into the left ventricle, where the blood then leaves the heart into the aorta and continues out in the body. The heart is always active and requires a constant supply of energy, delivered by blood in the coronary arteries, here visualized in red, together with an extensive network of nerves shown in green. This extensive network of blood vessels originates from the aorta and supplies the heart muscle with oxygen and energy.
But when the flow of blood is obstructed, it can cause an infarction.
A myocardial infarction is a potentially life-threatening condition which occurs when the blood flow is interrupted and cardiac cells die. This is commonly caused by a blood clot in an artery where a plaque has formed. These plaques can build up over decades, and the condition causes many deaths worldwide. The ability to visualize in 3 dimensions how the arterial tree interacts with cells and molecules helps us imagine novel aspects of its function. Perhaps there are aspects that were overlooked that now become apparent in 3 dimensions. For example, the arterial tree in the heart is closely intertwined with a network of nerves, and the potential interactions between the blood vessels and the nerves is a relationship that requires much further exploration. When it comes to myocardial infarction, it's very important to understand the arteries and their environment in the heart. This technique of visualization may help us improve our ability to diagnose, monitor, and treat cardiovascular diseases.
When we explore the world in new ways, we discover new things about us, about life itself. And now we see our proteins like we've never seen them before.
Hello everybody, this is Talon. Nutrition plays a big part in the big picture of your health and fitness, and it can be pretty basic or very complex depending on how committed you are to your goals and how far down the rabbit hole you dare to go. Now there's one thing about nutrition that everyone seems to be aware of. Nutrients. I mean, it's literally in the word. Today's society seems to be pretty familiar with what are known as macronutrients, those being carbohydrates, fat, and protein, and unfortunately alcohol. The main reason being that these 4 nutrients are the only ones that contribute anything calorically. The rest of the nutrients you see on a food label are what are called micronutrients, vitamins and minerals. They come in much smaller quantities and they don't contribute any calories. Instead, they maintain many essential bodily functions. Today we're going to be going over how every vitamin and mineral works in your body, as well as examples of foods to eat to make sure that you get a sufficient amount. We'll start with vitamins. Vitamin A, also known as retinol, is essential for vision and will protect against cataracts, but also plays an essential role in bone development and immune health, as well as combating several types of cancer. Good sources of vitamin A include eggs, shrimp, milk, carrots, and pumpkin. Vitamin B1, also known as thiamine, helps convert food into energy and is needed for healthy skin and nervous system function. Good sources of vitamin B1 include pork chops, salmon, and soy products. Vitamin B2, also known as riboflavin, also helps convert food into energy but is also necessary for healthy blood. Good sources of vitamin B2 include milk, whole grains, and leafy green vegetables. Vitamin B3, also known as niacin, has a similar function to the last 2, aiding in the conversion of food into energy while also supporting the circulatory system. Good sources of vitamin B3 include poultry, mushrooms, potatoes, and peanut butter. Vitamin B5, also known as pantothenic acid, aids in the creation of lipids, neurotransmitters, steroid hormones like testosterone and progesterone, and hemoglobin, a protein in your red blood cells. Good sources of vitamin B5 include chicken, broccoli, avocados, and tomato products. Vitamin B6, also known as pyridoxine, helps regulate amino acids that play key roles in your sleep, appetite, and mood. It also aids in the creation of red blood cells and maintaining your cognitive and immune functions. Good sources of vitamin B6 include fish, legumes, potatoes, and bananas. Vitamin B7, also known as biotin, helps synthesize glucose and breaks down fatty acids. It's also necessary for healthy bones and hair. Good sources of vitamin B7 include whole grains, organ meats, egg yolks, and soybeans. Vitamin B9, also known as folic acid, is necessary for cell creation and should be taken regularly by pregnant women to ensure the brain health of the child. Good sources of vitamin B9 include asparagus, okra, spinach, and orange juice. Vitamin B12, also known as cobalamin, assists in making new cells and breaking down certain amino acids and fatty acids. It also preserves nerve cells, red blood cells, and DNA. Good sources of vitamin B12 include meat, poultry, fish, milk, and eggs. Now, if you're wondering what happened to vitamins B4, 8, 10, and 11, so am I. Apparently, they no longer fit in the parameters of a vitamin, which is, by definition, an essential nutrient for normal human growth that your body does not produce enough of on its own, and it must be obtained through diet. Choline is not a vitamin, but it behaves like a B vitamin, as it helps make and release a neurotransmitter called acetylcholine, which aids in many nervous system activities. Good sources of choline include milk, eggs, salmon, and peanuts. Vitamin C, also known as ascorbic acid, is an antioxidant that helps protect your cells from free radicals, unstable molecules that can damage your body's cells. It is also shown to help protect against cataracts and certain cancers. Good sources of vitamin C include citrus fruits, broccoli, bell peppers, and strawberries. Vitamin D, also known as calciferol, maintains normal levels of calcium and phosphorus in your blood, both of which strengthen bones. Good sources of vitamin D include fortified milk, butter, and fatty fish. Vitamin E, also known as alpha-tocopherol, is an antioxidant that protects other nutrients like vitamin A and certain lipids from being damaged. It is also shown to help prevent Alzheimer's disease. Good sources of vitamin E include vegetable oils, leafy green vegetables, whole grains, and nuts. And lastly, vitamin K, also known as that activates proteins and calcium essential for blood clotting. Good sources of vitamin K include cabbage, liver, broccoli, and kale. You'll notice we're missing a few letters here. That's because nutrition science has become more sophisticated in recognizing and categorizing certain nutrients to more accurately depict what they are. For instance, vitamin F was reclassified as an essential fatty acid known as linoleic acid. Vitamins G and H were reclassified as B vitamins, specifically B2, riboflavin, and B7, biotin. Vitamin J is what is now known as choline, that non-vitamin. And I literally cannot find any evidence that vitamin I ever existed, so that's fun. Now moving on to minerals, first up we have calcium. Calcium builds and protects bones and teeth. It also helps with muscle contraction and relaxation, blood clotting, nerve impulse transmission, hormone secretion, enzyme activation, and maintaining healthy blood pressure. Good sources of calcium include dairy products, tofu, kale, and salmon. Chloride balances fluid in the body and is an essential component in digestion. Chloride is most commonly found in table salt, sodium chloride. Chromium enhances the activity of insulin, which helps maintain normal blood glucose levels. Good sources of chromium include meat, eggs, poultry, nuts, and cheese. Copper is essential in metabolizing iron and maintaining the immune system while also aiding in the making of red blood cells. Good sources of copper include liver, shellfish, nuts, seeds, and beans. Iodine influences thyroid hormones, which are in charge of regulating your metabolism. Iodine is most commonly found in iodized salt and seafood. Iron helps move oxygen throughout red blood cells and muscle cells through hemoglobin and myoglobin respectively. It's also necessary for chemical reactions to make amino acids, collagen, hormones, and neurotransmitters. Good sources of iron include meat, poultry, eggs, green vegetables, and whole grain. Magnesium is needed for many chemical reactions in the body and contributes to muscle contraction, blood clotting, regulating blood pressure, and building bones and teeth. Good sources of magnesium include spinach, broccoli, cashews, whole wheat, and milk. Manganese helps the formation of bones and metabolizes amino acids, cholesterol, and carbohydrates. Good sources of manganese include fish, nuts, legumes, and whole grains. Molybdenum is an essential part of processing proteins and DNA, as well as helping break down toxic substances that enter the body. Good sources of molybdenum include nuts, milk, and legumes. Phosphorus helps build and protect bones and teeth, and also helps convert food into energy. Good sources of phosphorus include dairy products, meat, eggs, potatoes, and almonds. Potassium balances fluid in the body, is needed for muscle contractions, and maintains your heartbeat. It is also shown to lower blood pressure and maintain bone health. Good sources of potassium include bananas, avocados, grapefruit, and fish. Selenium is an antioxidant that protects against cell damage. It also helps regulate thyroid hormones. Good sources of selenium include meat, fish, and walnuts. Sodium balances fluid in your body's cells, helps send nerve impulses, and is necessary for muscle contraction. It also has a huge impact on your blood pressure. Sodium is most commonly found in table salt. Sulfur is necessary for stabilizing protein structures and contributes to healthy hair, skin, and nails. Good sources of sulfur include meats, fish, poultry, nuts, and legumes. Lastly, zinc aids in the creation of new cells and is necessary for proper function of the immune system, wound healing, and your taste and smell. Good sources of zinc include red meat, oysters, beans, and nuts. As you can see, there's a lot that goes on under the surface when it comes to your nutrition. That being said, you can go as deep as you want, or if you don't want to stress about it, simply eating a balanced and colorful diet will most likely take care of all of this. Now, if you enjoyed the video, or at the very least learned a little something, I encourage you to subscribe and come back next week, so I can continue helping you become the greatest athlete you can be.
This video is going to explain the importance of keeping potassium at a safe level in your blood. It will show how cooking methods can lower the potassium content of foods and will give you an example of fruit and vegetable portion sizes. Potassium is a mineral involved in muscle movement and contraction. When kidney function is reduced, it will lose the ability to filter off the extra potassium in your blood. Consequently, the blood potassium level will go above normal. Not everyone with reduced kidney function has issues with potassium, and it will depend on your blood results. Your target blood potassium range depends on whether you are having renal replacement therapy or not. Your need to follow a low potassium diet can change along your CKD journey. It's important to have as balanced and varied a diet as possible. A low potassium diet is defined as a diet containing 50 to 70 millimoles of potassium per day. This table shows the minimal amount of daily potassium intake from our staple diet. When blood potassium increases above the normal level, it can cause the muscles to contract in an abnormal way, which is called a cramp. As our heart is made of muscle, high blood potassium can cause irregular heartbeats. There are several causes of raised blood potassium levels. Dietary potassium intake is only one of them. When you have a raised potassium blood result, you may be asked to repeat a blood test to confirm that the reading was correct. If you are on certain blood pressure medications, diuretics, or immunosuppressants, your doctor may advise you to adjust the dose or temporarily stop taking them. Metabolic causes of elevated blood potassium can be due to poor blood sugar control and acid-base imbalance. Your doctor may start you on a medication called sodium bicarbonate to neutralize your blood acidity and lower your blood potassium reading. Other causes of high blood potassium are dehydration, infection, weight loss, constipation, and inadequate dialysis. Meanwhile, your doctor and specialist nurses will refer you to see a renal dietitian and find out how to modify your diet. Sometimes, simply changing your dietary potassium intake can improve your blood potassium within 2 to 3 days. If you are at risk of hyperkalemia, you are encouraged to follow the low potassium diet. Your renal dietitian will take a diet history from you to find out the portion sizes and frequency of certain food consumption. Based on the following, your dietitian will recommend you to modify your diet and change your cooking methods if needed. You'll be encouraged to avoid some less nutritious high potassium food, such as chocolate, crisps, beer, and chips. Fruit and vegetables are high in potassium. However, our body does not absorb potassium from them efficiently. Therefore, you don't need to completely stop eating some of your favourite fruit and vegetables. Your dietitian can advise you on the types of high potassium fruit and vegetables to avoid and give you further advice about frequency and portion sizes suitable for you. At the end of this video, we will show you what a portion of fruit should look like. It is difficult to give a precise answer to this question, as daily potassium allowance depends on your residual renal function. Residual renal function means how well your own kidneys manage to get rid of the waste products. As potassium is a mineral stored in the muscles, the amount of daily potassium allowance varies depending on the muscle mass of the individual. Generally speaking, the bigger the person, the more potassium is allowed. As a rule of thumb, the maximum daily potassium allowance for someone who has no urine output or very limited renal function will be calculated based on their ideal body weight like this. Potatoes are part of a staple diet in the UK. In order to reduce the potassium content of them, you are recommended to peel and cut them into smaller pieces. Then boil the potatoes in lots of water and strain, then add them into other cooking, such as stew, curry, shepherd's pie and samosa. Remember to discard the water after boiling the potato. You can cut them into chips, parboil them, and then freeze for future use. Boiling the potatoes can significantly reduce the potassium content of them. Please be aware, Boiling too many potatoes in a small pot or the whole potato in a small amount of water are not efficient ways to reduce the potassium content of them. Other cooking methods, such as roasting, baking, deep frying, microwaving and steam cooking, will not remove the potassium from the potato. Potato powder, ready-made mashed potato and frozen products are all high in potassium. If you're going out for meals, you can try to choose rice, pasta and noodles or bread-based meals as they are lower in potassium content. Let's look at 2 meal plans and compare their potassium content. Breakfast, all bran cereal with milk and a tablespoonful of raisins, a cup of cappuccino and a banana. A glass of orange juice with a cereal bar containing nuts and dried fruit as a snack. Jacket potato with baked beans and a bowl of creamed tomato soup for lunch. A packet of potato crisps with a cup of coffee for snack. A slice of steak with chips for dinner with rhubarb crumble and custard as dessert. A slice of melon for supper. The total potassium content of this diet is 187 millimoles. Let's look at another diet. 2 Weetabix with milk, a cup of tea and a slice of toast with jam for breakfast. 2 plain biscuits with diluted squash and an apple for snack. Macaroni cheese with salad and a glass of lemonade for lunch. A donut with a cup of tea for snack. Beef stew with parboiled potatoes and apple crumble with custard for dinner. And a slice of toast with jam for supper. The total potassium content of this diet is 62.7 millimoles. Tomatoes are high in potassium. You can have a few slices of tomato in your sandwich, 3 to 4 cherry tomatoes in your salad, or a plum-sized tomato occasionally. Please avoid tomato juice or creamed tomato soup, as you may consume 2 to 3 tomatoes per serving. You can still use tinned tomatoes in cooking, as long as per portion of your meal you are consuming 1 plum-sized tomato only. If you are using tomato puree or paste, please make sure you only use half a teaspoonful per individual portion. Please be aware, tomato ketchup contains potassium too. Other high potassium vegetables include spinach, mushrooms, okra and choy sum. A few leaves of spinach in salad are fine, but please avoid cooked spinach as you may overconsume potassium in a small portion. For mushrooms and choy sum, please keep to the portion as you see here per meal. You are recommended to try tinned okra instead of fresh okra. Brussels sprouts, aubergine and sweet potato are all high in potassium. You are encouraged to eat them occasionally, with portion sizes per meal shown here. Avocado and rhubarb should not be consumed regularly as they are high in potassium. You can still have some fresh vegetables. A small salad usually contains about 10 millimoles of potassium. Fruits are very good sources of vitamins and minerals. As long as your blood potassium is within target, you should keep at least 1 portion of fruit per day. Here are some examples of 1 portion of fruit. They all contain similar amounts of potassium. The easiest way to remember the portion size of a fruit is to imagine a portion of fruit as a small apple. Fruits which are high in potassium, such as oranges, watermelon, mango, or grapes, per portion should look smaller than an apple. Please avoid dried fruit, fresh fruit juice, and vegetable juice. Milk contains potassium too, but it is a good source of high quality protein and calcium. Usually, you're recommended to limit milk intake to half a pint a day. Remember, potassium content of full cream, semi-skimmed and skimmed milk are very similar. Dried milk powder, evaporated milk, condensed milk and Coffee Mate all contain potassium. Over-the-counter milkshake supplements are usually high in potassium. If you need nutritional supplements, please contact your GP, renal consultants or specialist nurses to refer you to see a renal dietitian. You may also come across different kinds of milk substitutes. Potassium content of plant-based milks can vary between brands. It can range from 0.5 to to 5.6 millimoles of potassium per 300 milliliters. You can discuss with your dietitian and decide whether they are beneficial for you. Coffee is high in potassium. Tea contains less potassium per cup. Cocoa, malted milk drinks, Bovril and Thai juice are high in potassium. Alcohol such as beer, cider and wine are made from barley, apple and grapes. They all contain potassium. The general rule is the darker the beer, the higher the potassium content. Whiskey and spirits are low in potassium. Potassium additives are more bioavailable than potassium found in whole foods. Our bodies can absorb the potassium from the additive more efficiently than from the natural sources. That means food labelled reduced salt may be high in potassium. You are encouraged to choose less processed food and use a small amount of normal sea salt in cooking instead of using salt substitutes such as low salt. Chocolate is high in potassium. Please avoid excessive intake. You can try half-coated chocolate biscuits. Other snacks such as boiled sweets, mints, marshmallows, Turkish delight, popcorn and chewing gum are low in potassium. Here are some low potassium snack alternatives. Dietary potassium allowance depends on the blood potassium level. As mentioned before, many factors affect blood potassium level, such as reduction in appetite, vomiting and diarrhea, certain change of medication, and starting renal replacement therapy. You may be advised to eat more or less potassium-rich food depending on your blood results. Your renal dietitian will advise you when and how to adjust your intake so as to keep your blood potassium within the normal range. If you would like further information about traditional diets, please contact your dietitian.
Hello! Today I have one of my favorite comfort meals to share with you, mini meatloaves with low-fat cream spinach. Typically this dinner is chock full of calories, fat, and sodium, but I'm going to show you how to make it healthier and still full of flavor too. We'll start with the meatloaves. I've preheated my oven to 400 degrees Fahrenheit, and here I have 1 pound of extra lean ground turkey breast. I always try to buy lean or extra lean ground turkey breast, which means either 90% or 95% lean, because obviously it has less fat. Okay, next I have one 15¼ ounce can of low sodium whole kernel corn that I've drained and rinsed. Another option is to use one 10-ounce bag of frozen corn, but if you use frozen corn, you want to make sure it's completely thawed, drained, and rinsed, because extra water makes meatloaf soggy, and no one wants soggy meatloaf. Next, I have one 15¼ ounce can of low sodium sliced carrots that I've also rinsed and drained. Again, you could use frozen carrots here, a 12-ounce bag would do, but thaw, rinse, and drain them well. Next, I need to add 1 whole egg. There now, let's add our seasonings. I have a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, 1 teaspoon of garlic powder, 1 teaspoon of onion powder, and 1 tablespoon of dried parsley. You could also use a salt-free dried Italian spice blend if you prefer instead of the parsley. And last, I have 3/4 cup of quick cooking oats that will act as a binder for the meatloaf. Another option is to use crushed multigrain cereal or whole wheat breadcrumbs. All of those ingredients will add some extra fiber to our meatloaves. Now, I'm going to mix that all up. Now, I have two 6-cup nonstick muffin pans that I've coated with cooking spray. I like using muffin pans for meatloaf as they help with portion control and they speed up the cooking time. These are going to be ready in 20 minutes compared to the 60 minutes that it usually takes to cook one whole meatloaf. So I'm going to scoop the meatloaf mixture into each muffin cup until they're all full. If you have extra still left in your bowl, go back and add a little bit more to each muffin cup. Okay, now this is ready for the oven. And I'm going to let these bake for 10 minutes. While the meatloaves are cooking, I'm going to make the glaze. I have 2 tablespoons of low sodium ketchup, 1 teaspoon of dry mustard, 1 tablespoon of water, 1 tablespoon of balsamic vinegar, or you could use red wine vinegar here, and 1/2 teaspoon of honey. Both sweeteners are optional, but I like to use them for just a quick touch of sweetness. A quick stir, and our glaze is ready. While my meatloaves are finishing cooking in the oven, I'll whip together our creamed spinach. Now, as you probably know, spinach is a really healthy vegetable. It's rich in vitamin A, K, C, fiber, iron, protein, the list goes on. But unfortunately, in many recipes, it often gets bogged down with a lot of butter or cream when it comes to cooking it. So here's my 4-ingredient recipe for creamed spinach that cuts out a lot of fat but still keeps all the flavor. I have a pot here on the stove over medium-high heat. And I'm adding 2 16-ounce bags of frozen chopped spinach that I've already thawed. Along with 4 minced garlic cloves and 4 tablespoons of non-fat cream cheese. I'm going to stir and cook this until the water from the spinach cooks up, which should take about 5 minutes or so. So as you can see, all the water from my spinach mixture has evaporated. And now I'll stir in 3/4 cup of plain non-fat yogurt. I need to stir and cook that about 1 more minute until everything is warm. So our meatloaves have been cooking for 10 minutes, and I took them out of the oven briefly so I can glaze them. I'm spooning the glaze over each one until I use up the glaze. This is going to add great flavor and keep these nice and moist. So now back in the oven they go. So my creamed spinach is done, and I'm going to take my meatloaves out of the oven. Now, carefully, I'm going to run the edge of a knife around the edge of each muffin cup to loosen them, and then transfer them to a rack to cool for a bit before serving. One of my favorite things to do with the leftovers, if there are any, is to make meatloaf sandwiches. I put them on multigrain rolls and top with a little bit of low-sodium ketchup or tomato sauce. They're so good. I hope you get to make this heart-healthy, budget-friendly meal for your family soon. Thanks for watching.